My name is Matt Braynard. I'm the Executive Director of Look Ahead America and the leader of the project Look Ahead Arizona here, which is primarily focused on voter registration, but we also engage in other things like these and protests for the Justice for J6. I personally have been working in election administration with election data and voter data for about 10 years longer than Mike Lindell's been making pillows. I go way back with this stuff. And one of my jobs is working, the mic's dead, so I'm just going to yell. One of my jobs was working for the nation's premier election administration and redistricting firm, where I would literally walk into little town offices where they would administer their elections and help them fix their problems with their computer systems and their voters and that kind of thing. I actually did redistricting here in Arizona in the year 2000. In that cycle, my firm handled your redistricting, and it's actually in some ways my fault that they had to do the process twice. Because first they sent over a list of voters that included inactives, and that was what the first set of lines were built on. They didn't indicate that to us. And then we discovered that and they had to go through the whole process again. I don't think anybody even remembers what happened in redistricting in 2000 here in Arizona. So after the last election, I thought some things were a little peculiar and needed investigation. And I formed the Voter Integrity Project. Now, what we looked at is very different from what the audit was asked to do and what Ken did and what he oversaw, or not oversaw, but what he liaisoned. I'll just go with that, right? And what we found were that many people had received ballots, because we did a canvass in a different kind of way. We did a canvass by a phone, and we also did a canvass using electronic tools, and I'll explain that tool to you, and you all know what I'm talking about. We called many people in your state who told us that they had not requested an absentee ballot, yet they got one. We called people who said they did not return an absentee ballot, yet they had been marked as voting. The best case of this was a guy named Nashon Garrett. Nashon Garrett is from this wonderful state, but he left to go to Tennessee to learn how to be an Olympic wrestler, because I guess you guys aren't any good at wrestling. He had to go to Tennessee. Anyway, we called him, we didn't speak to him, we left a voice message. Based on that voice, the voice message says, you know, we identified you, we profiled you, somebody who has been marked as voting, but you may have been a victim of voter fraud. Call us back, okay? No intimidation whatsoever. He didn't actually call us back. He called Laura Ingraham on the Fox News channel and went on and said he looked it up himself and saw that not only did they mark him as having voted, but he was signature verified. How many Nashon Garretts do you know? I actually checked the voter list. There really is only one. You know, a John Smith, you could kind of envision maybe why, how that could happen. Very sloppy, you know, it could happen with a sloppy clerk, but not a Nashon Garrett. We found many cases of that. Now, Voter Integrity Project merged into Look Ahead America. You saw the sign out front. That's what Look Ahead America, Look Ahead Arizona was putting on this event, but we're continuing our investigation into illegal ballots. So far, we put out a report in Georgia that shows that the number of illegal ballots surpasses the margin of victory. Now, that's different than saying election is stolen, but we as an outside group don't have the authority to use the tools. A government could probably establish an election being stolen, but we're establishing that the margin surpasses the margin of victory, which means that it's not possible to know who really won. We've established that in Georgia, we've established that in Wisconsin. Right now, we're working on that here in Arizona. We're continuing to fortify our research that we did back in January. Many of you may have seen me, I think it was maybe December, me testifying alongside Rudy Giuliani, giving his evidence, playing recordings of people we had called and said, no, I did not request a ballot. No, I did not cast a ballot, yet I had been marked as casting that ballot. So we're continuing to fortify that research. We finished our initial analysis of Maricopa. Now, a lot of people like to go and do canvassing, like the door knocking. I'm not a fan of that for a lot of reasons. The biggest reason is that what you find is often not actionable. People lie. I actually have participated in canvass. They don't know who you are. You're asking for their cousin. They think they're in trouble with the law. No, he doesn't live here. I mean, really, how do you then walk into a clerk and make that actionable? We do canvassing the smart and actually legal way. Who here has moved before? How did you get your mail when you moved? You filled out a card, right? And that forwards your mail. Well, guess what? The Postal Service makes bank selling that list. So guess what we did? We just finished doing this with Maricopa. We just today got the files to do it for the rest of the state. You take the voter list, you take the permanent NCOA list, that list that says forward my mail out of state. Somebody forwards their mail out of state permanently, who's on the voter list and they cast a ballot, there's a chance they're not legitimate voters.
Yeah.
Now this isn't sexy. This isn't hacking into servers or getting to special forces battles in Germany or you know, whatever crazy stuff, or fractional or, you know, statistical analysis saying, you know, the chart shouldn't look like this, they should look like this. No, it's very straightforward. And we found many cases where somebody has, and we, you know, the NCOA for us is not enough of a standard. Now, we used that initially in Georgia, and people laughed at us, this is impractical, and then we went back and fortified it. We investigated using tax records, driver's license databases, other things, social media. We find somebody saying, hey, I'm having a great life in California, yet they cast a ballot in Georgia somehow. Now, just the NCOA match alone is not enough, because we found people who were legitimate. They were living on an army base. Well, guess what? Army base, you get to cast your ballot. It's not illegal. Or something similar to that. College students, right? But the Secretary of State of Georgia used NCOA alone to scrub 100,000 people off their voter list. And the same guy who said that our method was bunk. Not a very honest guy.
No.
We're doing that same analysis here. So rather than knocking on a bunch of doors and getting questionable results, and God knows how many doors, pardon my, who knows how many doors you've got to knock on to get 100 illegitimate voters, because most people you knock on the door, they're not home or they don't want to talk to you, whatever. Doing an instant NCOA match takes seconds. We could identify, and we have identified thousands of them here in Arizona. Again, that's not enough, so we're doing supplementary research. So this is what I'm getting to. That supplementary research is costly in terms of volunteer man-hours.
Here comes the ask.
Right now, Look Ahead America has a research group with people working right now on your state to identify them. These are volunteers. These are people engaged in basically volunteer level community organizing to help us identify these problems. Right now, at an event with Ann Coulter, any Ann Coulter fans in the house? At an Ann Coulter event in Phoenix, we have volunteers and field staff registering new voters. He just messaged me, hey, we got 5 new registered voters at an Ann Coulter event. I wonder how they're gonna vote. So, this is community organizing. This is what Look Ahead America and our project here, Look Ahead Arizona, is about. And I'm glad that we were able to have this forum. I'm looking forward to doing 3 more just like it, aren't you? Ready to do 3 more? So, but community organizing requires community. That requires you. Now, we've lost battles on the right, the America First right, for a long time now. At the local level, you look at CRT. At the state level, you look at how badly these elections are run. At the national level, you look at the Justice for J6 issue, right? On all 3 levels, we're making those fights. The reason we've lost those fights is because the left has dominated community organizing for years, for generations. When I say community organizing, honestly, what's the first thing that comes in your mind? Obama. I know when he ran for president, we made a joke about that, right? That was very funny. He's a community organizer. What's he thinking? That was a big mistake. That was a big mistake. Community organizing is important, and we can't neglect it anymore. That's what Look Ahead America is. That's what we are in your state as Look Ahead Arizona. So if you're willing to go out on a difficult day and have a bunch of people tell you no to find that 1 person out of 20 who's going to fill out a voter registration form, sign up to volunteer with us. Now, if you have social anxiety or you're more of a, I don't know, introvert, sign up with us anyway. We'll put you in research group to help us find these illegal voters, illegal ballots that are cast here in Arizona. So if we can show, as we showed in Wisconsin and Georgia, that the deserved winner is unknown, guess what happens when we get Arizona? What happens to the Electoral College? It becomes a tie. And then we can demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that the deserved winner of the presidential election is unknown. That is a goal worth having. And look, he just said that the governor here is interested in doing a special session to fix the elections. We put forward election policy objectives that would solve everything that you guys have been asking questions about, everything that happened in the 2020 election here and in every other state. We have 6 policy objectives. They're very simple. Number 1, thumbprint authentication on the absentee ballot affidavit envelope. What that means is it eliminates double voting. Signature verification, I can't sign my name twice the same way to save my life, but my thumbprint comes out the same way. And I used to have a 10-year-old cell phone. It opened up immediately. It could scan my thumbprint. There's no reason that technology can't be used to authenticate ballots.
Number of the beast.
Duplicates. Now, you may not want the government having your thumbprint. Well, here's the reality. The Board of Elections can encrypt it in one way, so it only matches to other ballots that you cast, so we know you're doing it. And if the government wanted your fingerprints, they're already all over those mail-in ballots. They can lift them right off them anyway. That's the truth. The second thing we want is a dedicated division within the Attorney General's office whose sole job it is to prosecute election fraud. In some states, the state of Texas, there's one person in the entire state that's responsible for that. I wonder if it's even less here. And look, you know how prosecutors are, especially in the Attorney General's office. They want to move up. And if an attorney gets put in charge of that division, he's going to want to make his mark so he can move up in office, so he will be vigilant. At least, if not for honorable reasons, for professional reasons. The other things we're advocating for: force the state to clean the list and maintain it. Run it up against NCOA. Run it up against other states' driver's license database. The U.S. Secretary of State has a database of all of the non-citizens, and they offer to let states match their voter lists up against it to identify illegal voters, illegal aliens who should not be able to vote. Almost no states do that.
Search criteria,
Well, who knows? But the bottom line is that, look, these are 6 policies that would solve these problems. Well, we can only write them. We can't take them to your state legislators. They don't care about me. I live in the swamp. Who are you? A constituency, or better yet, you and your neighbors who marched in that state legislator's office. Now you've got their attention. Now you can educate them. And what we found, because we've been doing this all over the country, what we found is that when we go and talk to a state legislator about one of our public policy objectives on election integrity, they don't know anything about this. You'd be shocked at how little they know, in fact. There's so many issues. The nuances of a thumbprint on an affidavit envelope. Well, guess what? We talked to Texas. They introduced legislation. Open source voting equipment. Look, these Dominion machines, the problem with them is you don't know how they work because the software is secret. We're going to open that up. We're going to require states in our public policy objectives to use open source voting equipment. I know we don't like machines. Guess what's also open source? Hand counts. That's open source. But if you're going to have machines, at least allow the government and the public to see how they operate. You're not allowed to take a screwdriver to the machines that you have in Maricopa. It's forbidden by the contract. So is there a router in there? Is some funny internet business going? You can't even find out. So that's why we need transparency. Anyway, these are our objectives for fixing the election. And he just said the governor, if you believe him, is willing to entertain a special session. They need something to pass. Get involved with us. Sign up to volunteer at LookAheadAmerica.org. Sign up to volunteer. We'll put you to work. We'll teach you how to talk to your state legislator on these issues. Because there's nobody that's going to do this for you. It's all on you. There's no one out there that's going to rescue you. No one that's going to just fix the system because you're unhappy with it. That's not how it works. It's not how it's ever worked. You've got to get engaged. So I beg of you, please. You're going to get an email from me, or you can take the initiative. Please go to LookAheadAmerica.org and sign up to volunteer. With that, I thank you for your attendance and God bless.
We got to ask Bennett questions. Do we get to question you? We got to ask Mr. Bennett questions. Can we ask you questions?
You guys can leave if you want. If you want to ask a question, I'll take a couple questions.
Great. My question is, have any of those witnesses that you say you've discovered who say that, that it's the basis for you saying that illegal votes were counted?
Turn that over to the Senate.
Yeah, but the question is, have any of those people made testimonial evidence to any competent government body or court under oath? Or do you just have affidavits or hearsay and anecdotes?
We work with attorneys on that, and we're kind of going back to where we were working with attorneys with the Trump administration or the Trump campaign.
So no, you don't have any sworn testimony.
Oh, we have affidavits that are signed.
You have affidavits. Yep. Those are not sworn testimony. Do you have anybody under oath, under penalty of perjury, saying any of this stuff?
I'll get Nation Garrett to do it. He did it on live television, so.
Okay. Well, you just told us all, people lie. You go and you talk to them face to face, they lie to your face. Why do you think these people aren't lying to you?
I don't believe that Nation Garrett's lying because I don't believe he cast the ballot because he couldn't.
All right.